Hello and welcome to this first look exploring session, our ongoing exploring session looking at The Devil is an Ass by Ben Jonson. Today we're looking at Act 4 in its entirety, thinking about how to trim down and get it more tidy, shall we say, for a stage production, because there is a lot of stuff. Though so far we haven't found any easy cuts. We've definitely found lots of options. We've found some acts that are more trimmable than others, and but there's an awful lot of stuff we just quite like and would like to keep in, and therefore it's I don't want to cut that bit. It's good. I mean, there's a lot of it, but it's good. Etc. So we will continue that discussion. Just for the record, for us, it's been a few days since we did the last few acts, and so we might not quite remember where we are. So it might take us a little while to get back into the groove of things. Hopefully, however, all will flow nicely. Reading today, Wittipol is
Alexandra, and this is the nearest I have to a cutting implement today.
Someone's read ahead. Reading Lady Eitherside is
Lois in London.
Reading Merecraft is
Alίκη in Lancaster.
Reading Pug and Everill is.
Hi, I'm Eric. How can I help you today? I'm tech support.
Reading Francis and Pitfall is.
Rachel in Canada.
Reading Tailbush and Plutarchus is.
Hi, I'm Lynn. I'm coming to you from the northwestern United States.
Reading Fitzdottrel and initially Manly is.
Alan.
And I'm your host, Robert Crighton. I'll be reading stage directions. I may also read Manly, but then again, anyone in this room might read Manly because we have a Manly deficiency, as it were. I don't know where I'm going with that. I'm going to move on. So, Act 4, Scene 1. And this is where I suddenly realised that I haven't got my script fully in the right place. There we are. So, Act 4, Scene 1, we have the entrance of Tailbush, Lady Tailbush, and Merecraft.
On referring you to commissioners, I'd rather hear that it were past the seals. You courtiers move so snail-like in your business. Would I had not begun with you?
We must move, madam, in order, by degrees, not jump.
Right, there was Sir John Moneyman could jump a business quickly.
True, he had great friends, but because some sweet madam can leap ditches, we must not all shun go over bridges. The harder parts I make account are done, now 'tis referred. You are infinitely bound unto the ladies, they are so cried it up.
Do they like it then?
They have sent the Spanish lady to congratulate with you.
I must send them thanks and some remembrances.
And you must, and visit him. Where's Ambler?
Lost. Today we cannot hear of him.
Not, madam.
No, in good faith, they say he lay not at home tonight. And here has fallen a business between your cousin and Master Manly has unquieted us all.
So I hear, madam. Pray you, how was it?
Troth, it but appears ill on your kinsman's part. You may have heard that Manly is a suitor to me, I doubt not.
I guessed it, madam.
And it seems he trusted your cousin to let fall some fair reports of him unto me.
Which he did.
So far from it, as he came in and took him railing against him.
Oh, and what said Manly to him?
Enough, I do assure you, and with that scorn of him and the injury, as I do wonder how Everill bore it. But that guilt undoes many men's valors.
Here comes Manly.
Indeed,
Madam,
does enter Manly.
Madam, I'll take my leave.
Go with faith. I'll have you stay and see this Spanish miracle of our English lady.
Let me pray your ladyship lay your commands upon me some other time.
Now I protest, and I will have all peace and friends again.
It will be but ill-soldered.
You are too much affected with it.
I cannot, madam, but think on to the injustice.
Sir, his kinsman here is sorry.
Not I, madam. I am no kin to him. We but call cousins. And if we were, sir, I have no relation unto his crimes.
You are not urged with them. I can accuse, sir, none but mine own judgment. But though it were his crime so to betray me, I'm sure 'twas more mine own, at all to trust him. But he therein did use but his old manners, and favour strongly what he was before.
He will change.
Faith, I must never think it, nor were it reason in me to expect that for my sake he should put off a nature he sucked in with his milk. It may be, madam, deceiving trust is all he has to trust to. If so, I shall be loath that any hope of mine should bait him of his means.
You are sharp, sir. This act may make him honest.
If he were to be made honest by an act of Parliament, I should not alter my faith of him.
Eitherside, welcome, dear Eitherside. How hast thou done, good wench?
Having spied the Lady Eitherside.
Thou hast been a stranger, and have seen thee this week.
And we'll pause before we go into Act 4, Scene 2, which, I say, is a continuation of an ongoing scene. That's the way they structure these things. So we're sort of interacting with some of the more peripheral characters that we're not that familiar with. It's sort of what happens at the beginning of acts. Have we met Tailbush before? We've had reference, but we haven't actually met Tailbush. We have met Manley, who's been popping around all over the place. Thoughts? Are we sort of... I get the impression that we're all sort of trying to catch up, get back in the room and remember who the hell these people are and what's going on. Does anyone sort of know what's going on? Lynn, then Alan.
Oh, Alan. Well, okay. Yeah. So I think it was Manley who, in the first act, said, "I've got a lunch invitation to Lady Tailbush's, and all my good clothes are at the pawn shop." So yeah, we have heard about her before. I'm not sure why she's an object of anyone's desire, whether she has money or what. And then her like involvement with Merecraft is she wants to get some kind of monopoly on a new cosmetic, right? Really just so people will talk about her, just sort of for the fame. Not that she really needs the cash. And this imaginary Spanish lady seems to be like everybody is really interested in having her approval and making her acquaintance, and she doesn't really exist. Okay.
Yes, and I think this is the important thing. We had the setup at the end of the last act that Wittipol is pretending to be this great Spanish lady, and so we have additional anticipation here of the performance. Because all we saw earlier was Wittipol going, "Where's my trailer? Where am I getting ready for my grand performance?" Which was all very meta-theatrical at the time as well, because the person playing Wittipol is also the person they talk about, who might be someone who's available to play Wittipol. This Spanish, so it's all sort of twisty turning. So that seems to be where we're going. This anticipation is being built up in this act. But yes, it's a little discombobulating coming in thusly. Alan, then Lois.
Yeah, I mean, I think Tailbush is actually the female analogue of Merecraft, which would make more sense in a modern production with gendered actors than maybe it would have done at the time.
Well, no, Tailbush is another dupe.
Yeah,
no,
I don't think.
I think she's described as a female promoter in the DP.
But I remember she's the one who is there to Merecraft has already talked about. I've sold her this fake cosmetic brand or whatever. So I think she's a dupe here rather than anything else. And I wouldn't automatically trust the DP. Lois.
Yeah, I think these ladies are one of the problems with the plot. I mean, both Tailbush and Eitherside. There are moments when Tailbush seems more like a kind of colleague of Merecraft, and other moments when she's more of a dupe. But I think Fitzdottrel's told to send her a ring, isn't he? Or some precious object to get her on his side. And Manley, for some reason, seems to be courting her. Though why on earth he would want her, I can't imagine. Then there's a question of what happens to this ring, which obviously Merecraft intends to get into his clutches. This is one of the bits I find hardest to follow.
I thought the ring was for was a fake. It was about paying off the Spanish lady. So. And it has already been stolen as well in the previous scene. So Puck got very confused in a scene that was actually quite confusing and still needs a bit of unpicking. But yeah, so it might be. I think the other thing is that there are fakes within cons within cons within cons. So it may be that Tailbush has this idea that she is some great Dragon's Den occupant who's there to make deals and set up trades, but actually is just being used by everybody else. So there may be a bit of social satire going on there as well. Who else was waving? Was anybody else waving? I thought I saw hands. Eric.
Yeah, I was just going to say that basically Merecraft had a servant that sort of called Trains, who basically was showing off his disguise skills and sort of in the previous scene / act, and stole the ring from Pug, because Pug was too distracted with a lady person whose name I can't recall right now, and
Pitfall.
Yeah.
Yes, so that was Trains, who had his double-sided cloak, who turns up and steals the ring, and they go, "Oh, who's this person?" And he goes off stage and comes on and says, "What? Something happened." It's all very, very active. Okay, so hopefully we're a bit more centred, a bit more grounded. Fingers crossed, as to assess what's going on. Because having spoken of either side, enter to them, Lady Eitherside.
Ever your servant, madam.
Where hast thou been? I did so long to see thee.
Visiting, and so tired. I protest, madam, 'tis a monstrous trouble.
And so it is. I swear I must tomorrow begin my visits. Would they were over at court. It tortures me to think on them.
I do hear you had cause, madam. Your suit goes on.
Who told thee?
One that can tell, Master Eitherside.
Oh, thy husband. Yes, in faith, there's life in it now. It is referred. If we once see it under the seals, wench, then have with him. For the great Karoulla, 6 horses and 2 coachmen, with my ambler here, and my 3 women. We will live in faith the examples of the town, and govern it. I'll lead the fashion still.
Oh, you do that now, sweet madam.
Oh, but then I'll every day bring up some new device. Thou and I, Eitherside, will be first in it. I will give it thee, and they shall follow us. Thou shalt, I swear, wear every month a new gown out of it.
Oh, thank you, good madam.
Pray thee call me Tailbush, and I thee Eitherside. I do not love this, madam.
Then I protest to you, Tailbush. I'm glad your business so succeeds.
Thank thee, good Eitherside.
But Master Eitherside tells me that he likes your other business better.
Which?
The toothpicks.
I never heard on it.
Ask Master Merecraft.
Madam, he's one, in a word. I'll trust his malice with any man's credit I would have abused.
If you think you do please me in this, you are deceived.
No, but because my lady named him my kinsman, I would satisfy you what I think of him, and pray you upon it to judge me.
So I do. That ill men's friendship is as unfaithful as themselves.
Do you hear? Have you business about toothpicks?
Yes, madam. Didn't I tell you? I meant to have offered it, your ladyship, on perfecting the patent.
This is actually Merecraft's
Yeah.
line.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes, so it is. Yes, we have a Merecraft in Tailbush.
For serving the whole state with toothpicks, somewhat an intricate business to discourse, but I show how much the subject is abused. First in that one commodity, then what diseases and putrefactions in the gums are bred by those are made of adulterate and false wood. My plot for reformation of these follows: to have all toothpicks brought unto an office, there sealed, and such as counterfeit 'em mulcted, and last, for venting 'em, to have a book printed, to teach their use, which every child shall have throughout the kingdom that can read, and learn to pick his teeth, by which, beginning early to practice with some of the rules of never sleeping with the mouth open, chawing some grains of mastic, will preserve the breath pure and so free from taint. What says thou?
Yes, for trains as his man has entered and whispering in his ear.
Faith, it sounds a very pretty business.
So Master Eitherside says, madam.
The lady is come!
Who is she? Good, wait upon her. My Ambler was never so ill absent. Eitherside, how do I look today? Am I not dressed spruntly?
Yes, spruntly. Spruntly is a word.
It is here.
And elsewhere, it is not just Jonson. Anyway, she looks in a glass.
Yes, verily, madam.
Oxum, madam, will you not leave that?
Yes, good Tailbush.
So, sounds not that better? What a vile fucus this is thou hast got on.
'Tis pearl.
Pearl, oyster shells. As I breathe Eitherside, I know it. Here comes, they say, a wonder. Syrah has been in Spain, will teach us all. She's sent to me from court to gratulate me. Prithee, let's observe her what faults she has, that we may laugh at 'em when she is gone.
Oh, that we will, heartily. Tailbush.
Wittipol enters dressed like a Spanish lady.
Oh, me, the very infanta of the giants.
And we'll just pause there at this great moment of reveal. The whole act has so far been building to this moment, but it has still given us Merecraft's bravura discourse on toothpicks. And I'm sort of interested in the social history of toothpicks now. It's as to the fashion and the idea of dental hygiene. As we're increasingly at a time where you're having more and more access to refined sugar, tooth decay is increasingly more of a problem in a way that 100 years or so ago really wasn't. And it's only going to get worse over the following sort of centuries or so. So this is an interesting. Merecraft this isn't actually an unreasonable thing to be promoting. I'm not sure what his angle is actually. I get the impression Merecraft is just rip. He's no idea where he's going with this speech. He's just making it up as he's going along. He just saw something on the other side of the room. Oh yeah, lamps. Let me tell you about lamps and doing. Anyway, I'll go to Lois, then Lynn, then Eric.
Yeah, I mean, the point is monopolies. I mean, it's not really what the thing is, but getting a monopoly of it so that nobody can produce it or do anything with it except you. That's what people want.
Or they have to pay you to.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I am struck by how vulnerable the characters in some of these London comedies are to rumor. we just finished reading A Trick to Catch the Old One recently, and in that, basically, you just start a rumor that somebody's rich, and everyone believes it. It. So I wonder if that's just an exaggeration of a situation that actually did exist in London. That this sort of rumor mill was so powerful that you start a rumor about somebody's reputation and it's all over town. Before you can say Jack Robinson, and people are really gullible, especially when it comes to believing things that have to do with money or prestige or something like that. So
yeah, I mean, it's in that sense, faith and belief in what is said to be true about something is basically the entire basis of capitalism, and speculative capitalism as well. This project is going to be this successful, amazing thing. Is it? Well, it is if we say it is. Trust in the banks, trust in the concept of money is all about faith and rumor. And
it's only worth money's only worth something because we all agree it's worth something.
This is what the fake it till you make it school, isn't it? Of saying, well, if I say I am successful, then at some point it will be true. As many con artists have found out, doesn't always work. And there are many modern examples of that. Yeah, that's what I quite like about some. Even if we don't understand the precise social thing that is happening within the context of the play, there's always a little bit of a hook that you can go, okay, no, elements of this do happen. They don't happen in this fashion, but they do happen in some fashion. And I think that gives me hope always for these plays. Eric?
Yeah, I like to think he just saw like a poster on the tube about like teeth and just made up like something about toothpicks. And like that kind of thing where you just kind of like walk past something and just like, oh yeah, I could totally make an ad about this and whatever. People don't do that, do they? But yeah, I just like the noted the characterization in this where you've got Tailbush and Eitherside going, oh yeah, let's observe her and see how what things she does wrong, so we can laugh at her later and like gossip about her and whatever. And I just like the characterization. It's just I don't know. Yeah.
Okay.
It kind of shows you though that they're friends, but also not, because at the beginning they're kind of like, oh yes, mwah, mwah. That would be the equivalent, I feel, at the beginning of like when they meet. Where hast thou been? I did so long to see thee. And it's just like
I believe that, right?
Depending on how you play it, it could come across as very sarcastic or very sort of
insincere.
Or sincere even.
We must be on first name basis. Who's making the Hedda Gabler reference in the chat? Terms of address are important. Alexandra.
I just wanted to say, bringing us back to the cutting issue, that it's possible, of course, that this scene was serving a functional purpose at the time, as well as not this scene, this segment that presumably for a modern production you might not necessarily need. So some of that beautiful stuff about the toothpicks can definitely go. This feels to me like a section where, as long as we get the character dynamics, because we wouldn't want to lose all that beautiful stuff that we've just been talking about, but as long as we can keep that, the actual substance of what's going on can be reduced significantly and save us some time.
Yes, I think also just in terms of the flow of where we put the interval, I think it was Helen who was suggesting midway through Act 3 there is an interval point, which is where the narrative of Wittipol being the Spanish lady and that whole sort of plot line begins. And actually, if we say the beginning of the second half of our production begins with that, well, what we're getting here in Act 4 is more of that. And it's like, well, we can take the stuff at the end of Act 3, we can look at this, and we can look at that as a sort of totality to get to this point in the narrative. and that, yeah, there's an awful lot of just little tweaking just to get that momentum going, because I think we need that momentum, this excitement she's coming, having set up the con, 10 minutes earlier, and then to get to this point when Wittipol appears, and of course it's all then down to whoever's playing Wittipol for this to be hilarious, because otherwise the whole thing's going to die on its arse. No pressure. But yeah, I'm starting to see that cutting logic, because we did think that Act 3, and certainly some of this, is sort of set up character. It's not pushing forward in the way that I think a modern production would need. Even though a lot of it's very nice, and we've had a lot to discuss about it. Decisions. Sometimes you have to kill your favorite characters or favorite scenes. To make the play work better. Alexandra, then Eric.
Really quickly, it's possible that the pushing forward that it's doing in its intentional structure is this build-up of, here it is, here it comes, here it is, here it comes. Which, yes, as you say, is not something that we need, but also possibly not something that would work in the same way, just in our, to our modern sensibilities.
Yes, and also because we don't have the sort of act structure that this play is giving us, we've just gone through we've just had a couple of minutes trimming the candles, we've listened to a bit of music, let's get back into the rhythm of the play-ness of the last couple of scenes, which we wouldn't need, because that's probably not where we're putting our interval, our primary interval. Eric, then Lois, and then we'll move on.
I just like the line about "Oh, meet the very infant of the giants," because I seem to remember there was also a reference to Wittipol's height earlier in the play, where he was described as someone who was not as tall as the actor they were getting to play him, or vice versa, something like that.
He wasn't as tall as himself. Yeah, the joke.
Yeah, so it's kind of like, what exactly is he wearing in this? Just I'm curious, because is he wearing heels? Is he
Lois?
One thing you've got to think about with the interval, obviously, is the time for Wittipol to get changed, because this is probably, would have been anyway, quite an elaborate outfit to put on. Now, of course, with Velcro and so on, it wouldn't be quite so bad.
Okay, so let's see what happens with the Enter to Them, Act 4, Scene 3. Enter to Them. We've already, yes. Merecraft, for some reason, nipped off stage earlier. It wasn't properly marked. So we have had the appearance of Wittipol, and Merecraft returns to announce the presence.
Here is a noble lady, madam, come from your great friends at court to see your ladyship and have the honor of your acquaintance.
Sure, she does us honor.
Pray you, say to her ladyship, it is the manner of Spain to embrace only, never to kiss. She will excuse the custom.
And Ben Jonson once again helpfully just says, that is the character excusing for not kissing. There are lots of these little helpful Ben Jonson notes that are slightly misplaced.
Your use of it is law. Please, you sweet madam, to take a seat.
Yes, madam. I have had the favour, through a world of fair report, to know your virtues, madam, and in that name have desired the happiness of presenting my service to your ladyship.
Your love, madam, I must not own it else.
Both are due, madam, to your great undertakings.
Great. In truth, madam, they are my friends that think of anything. I can do anything. If I can do my sex by them any service, I have my ends, madam.
And they are noble ones that make a multitude beholden, madam. The Commonwealth of Ladies must acknowledge from you.
Except some envious, madam.
You're right in that, madam, of which race I encountered some but lately, who seems have studied reasons to discredit your business.
Sweet madam.
Nay, the parties will not be worth your pause. Most ruinous things, madam, that have put off all hope of being recovered to a degree of handsomeness.
But their reasons, madam, I would fain hear.
Some, madam, I remember. They say that painting quite destroys the face.
Oh, that's an old one, madam.
There are new ones, too. Corrupts the breath, has left so little sweetness in kissing as it is now used but for fasten, and shortly will be taken for a punishment. Decays the four teeth that should guard the tongue, and suffers that run riot everlasting. And which is worse, some ladies, when they meet, cannot be merry and laugh, but they do spit in one another's faces.
I should know this voice and face too.
Once again, that's Manly beginning to realise what's going on. Thank you, Ben Jonson.
Then they say it is dangerous to all the fallen, yet well disposed, mad dames that are industrious and desire to earn their living with their sweat. For any distemper of heat and motion may displace the colours, and if the paint once run about their faces 20 to 1, they will appear so ill-favoured, their servants run away too, and leave their pleasure imperfect, and the reckoning also unpaid.
Oh, pox, these are poets' reasons.
Some
old lady that keeps a poet has devised these scandals.
Faith, we must have the poets banished, madam, as Master Eitherside says.
Master Fitzdottrel and his wife. Where, madam, the Duke of Drownedland, that will be shortly.
Is this, my lord?
The same.
And everybody remains on stage. Enter to them Fitzdottrel and Mistress Fitzdottrel, Francis, and Pug. And for the moment, because I haven't figured out who can be Manly, anyone who's not in this scene can be Manly, otherwise I'll be Manly. Wave at me if you're not in this scene. Everybody's in this scene, I'll be Manly. Right.
Your servant, madam.
How now? Friend, offended that I have found you haunt here. How now, friend, offended that I have found you haunt here?
Wittipol whispers with Manly. No, but wondering at your strange-fashioned venture hither.
It is to show you what they are you so pursue.
Well, I think it will prove a medicine against marriage to know their manners.
And profit.
And the lady, madam, whose prince has brought her here to be instructed.
Please, you sit with us, lady.
Presents Mistress Fitzdottrel.
That's Lady President.
A godly woman. I cannot see the ring, though.
So she has it.
But, madam, these are very feeble reasons.
So I urged, madam, that the new complexion now to come forth in the name of your ladyship's focus had no ingredient.
But I durst eat, I assure you.
So do they in Spain.
Sweet madam, be so liberal to give us of your Spanish fucusties.
They are infinite, madam.
So I hear. They have water of gourds, of radish, of white beans, flowers of glass, of thistles, rosemary, raw honey, mustard seed, and bread dough baked.
I'm just going to pause you there. That list should be Wittipol. So, Alexandra, could you go from they have, please?
I'll take it from the bit just before. They are infinite, madam. So I hear. They have.
No, the so I hear was Tailbush. That's why I said go from. I apologise. It is an error in the script.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry.
So I hear.
They have water of gourds, of radish, the white beans, flowers of glass, of thistles, rosemaries, raw honey, mustard seed, and bread dough baked. The crumbs of bread, goat's milk, and whites of eggs, camphor, and lily roots, the fat of swans, marrow of veal, white pigeons, and pine kernels, the seeds of nettles, purslane, and air's gall, lemons thin-skinned.
Oh, her ladyship has studied all excellent things.
But ordinary, madam, no, the true rarities are the albagada and argentada of Queen Isabel.
Aye, what are their ingredients, gentle madam?
Your alum scaiola, or pol di pedra, and zuccarino, turpentine of Abruzzo, washed in 9 waters, soda di Levante, or your fern ashes, Benjamin di Gotta, grasso di serpe, porcelletto marino, oils of lentisco, zucchi e muggia make the admirable varnish for the face, gives the right luster, but 2 drops rubbed on with a piece of scarlet makes a lady of 60 look at 16. But above all, the water of the white hen, the Lady Estefanias.
Oh, aye, that same good madam I have heard of. How is it done?
You take your hen, plume it, and skin it, cleanse it of the innards, then chop it, bones and all, add to 4 ounces of caravicins, pipitas, soap of Cyprus, make the decoction, strain it, then distill it, and keep it in your gallipot well gliddered. 3 drops preserves from wrinkles, warts, spots, moles, blemishes, or sunburnings, and keeps the skin in decimosexto, ever bright and smooth as any looking glass, and indeed is called the virgin's milk for the face. Olio reale, a ceruse, neither cold nor heat, will hurt, and mixed with oil of myrrh and a red gilly flower called cataputia, and flowers of Rovisco, makes the best muta or dye of the whole world.
Dear madam, will you let us be familiar?
Your ladyship's servant.
Yeah, we'll pause there for a moment. So we have had a thorough display of instructions and materials there. Once again, we have the joke. This extempore burbling of Wittipol here. Some of which is increasingly absurd. There are some elements in there which are positively disturbing. The water of the white hen, I don't know precisely how you collect that. And so all sorts of interesting questions. It's about that. I suspect we're discussing the question of cuts. I like the idea of this scene. I think there's too much of this scene, but that is straightforward. I think you just find a way of Wittipol bamboozling, and you keep the stuff you like, and you drop anything that's just or you just do it incredibly quickly. I mean, that's the other thing. I mean, there's it is a very difficult to sight read. I think Alexandra was going about as fast as you can with this text on a cold read. There's a little, this is one where the original spelling has been mostly left intact because there is also sort of pronunciation hints at some of it. But yeah, there's a lot of tidying and work to do on that. Thoughts before we go a little further, Lynn?
Yeah, you don't want to do too much violence to. I mean, I wouldn't want to. Partly because I think one of the appeals of Jonson is that his social critiques are actually still applicable. This whole, it makes a woman of 60 look like she's 16. It'll get rid of any kind of blemishes you have. I mean, you still see advertisements for snake oil that's supposed to do this sort of thing. I mean, still, like, for obviously doctored videos of someone like rubbing the magic potion into their skin and their wrinkles disappear. So, hey, 400 years later, people are still trying to sell the youth, the youth serum. So I kind of want to keep that idea.
Yes, Aliki.
So, I mean, I'm shocked that Water of the White Hen was where you balked, because we actually got quite detailed instructions on how to make Water of the White Hen. But I was interested that I recognized just about everything in there. So wherever he's coming, getting this stuff from, it's all real ingredients. It's all timely. A little bit of it goes a bit silly, but some of it is fairly abstruse and pretty cool. Modern production obviously would have to do this as an Instagram ad following Lynn's previous comment.
Who's next? I'll go to Lois.
Yeah, I think he may well have found some of these recipes in classical texts, because I think we had a scene in Sejanus where a doctor is talking to Livia about making a fucus for her that will do wonderful things. I mean, satire on women trying to make themselves look young is a very old medium.
Alexandra.
I also wanted to bring to mind, there's a similar thing he does in The Alchemist, where again you have someone starting by talking about things everyone in the audience would recognize and then going more and more obscure. And I think in order to preserve the logic of what's happening here, as long as that is occurring, so we go from radish and white beans and raw honey and mustard seeds through allium, which again, that's alum. I misread that. But potentially the Latin that, or the Italian that some people might get, but some might not, and then skipping right to the completely obscure stuff, you could probably get them, and then 3 drops preserves from wrinkles. You could probably have the effect that this is trying to achieve with keeping 4 or 5 out of all those lines. But then we would lose this absolute patter, because you could also, as you said, Robert, you could just have the actor accelerate through the entire thing.
And there is that logic to this, of course. Wittipol is talking to someone, Tailbush, who presumably actually does know a thing or two here. It's not like you're bamboozling someone who, doesn't have some idea of cosmetics. Tailbush does. It might be the none of them work, but Tailbush is knowledgeable and keeps pushing. So I think there might also be a bit of desperation with Wittipol of tap dancing, of going, I don't know where to go now, because you've pushed. I've turned up and I am slightly above my pay grade. Bam. So there might be that joke in there as well. So anyway, we will move on. We have Alan, then we'll move on.
Yeah, I was just thinking that sequence there could quite easily be taken out and put into a sketch show, couldn't it? And this is relevant now as ever.
Yeah, I think that there are set pieces. This place, each act seems to have its set piece that you're able to play with. Act 3 less than perhaps Acts 1 and 2, but they have these moments that you orbit that give satisfaction, as it were. Alexandra.
Real quick, the other thing that we can probably cut down very easily is what precedes this moment. All that back and forth about painting and the sort of the niceties of we're meeting a new person and so on. I think the exchange where Wittipol and Manley are going, oh, hey, you're here. Okay, stick around and watch the show. I think that's really nice to keep. But yeah, the preceding interactions between the women are between women, so it would be nice not to remove, but...
I did quite like them, and I thought after all that build-up, you kind of need that introduction, especially with, we don't do kissing, which, of course, within the plays, I don't want you too close to see through the makeup and the costume. So we don't do kissing here. So it's like if they go in to do mwah, mwah, and not in the best houses nowadays. So there's a lot of pleasure, and that's that again. We're getting to that problem of going, maybe we could cut this. No, I like that bit. Decisions to be made further down the line. Okay, we're going to move on. We've had this display. Merecraft takes up the cudgels and asks for a viewer response.
How do you like her?
Admirable, but yet I cannot see the ring.
Sir?
I must deliver it or mar all this fool so jealous. Madam! Sir, wear this ring, and pray you take knowledge 'twas sent you by his wife, and give her thanks. Do not you dwindle, sir. Bear up!
I thank you, sir.
But for the manner of Spain, sweet madam, let us be bold now we are in. Are all the ladies there in the fashion?
None but grandest, madam, or the clasped train, which may be worn at length too, or thus upon my arm.
And do they wear chupinos all?
If they be dressed in punto, madam.
Gilt as these are, madam?
Of goldsmith's work, madam, and set with diamonds, and their Spanish pumps of perfumed leather.
I think it hard to go in 'em, madam.
At the first it is, madam.
Do you never fall in them?
Never.
I swear I should, 6 times an hour.
But you have men at hand still to help you if you fall.
Only one, madam, the guardadueña, such a little old man as this.
Alas, he can do nothing, this.
I'll tell you, madam, I saw in the court of Spain once a lady fall in the king's sight along, and there she lay, flat spread as an umbrella. Her hoop here cracked. No man durst reach a hand to help her till the guardadueña came, who is the person only allowed to touch a lady there, and he but by his finger.
Have they no servants, madam, there, nor friends?
An escudero or so, madam, that waits upon them in another coach at distance, and when they walk or dance, holds by an anchorchair, and never presumes to touch them.
This is scurvy, and a forced gravity. I do not like it. I like our own much better.
'Tis more French and courtly ours.
And tastes more liberty. We may have dozens of visitors at once make love to us.
And before our husbands.
Husband? As I am honest, Tailbush, I do think if nobody should love me but my poor husband, I should e'en hang myself.
Fortune forbid, wench. So fair a neck should have so foul a necklace.
'Tis true, as I am handsome.
I received, lady, a token from you. A token from you, which I would not be rude to refuse, being your first remembrance.
Oh, I'm satisfied now.
Do you see it, sir?
But since you come to know me nearer, lady, I'll beg the honour you will wear it for me.
And Wittipol gives it to Mistress Fitzdottrel.
It must be so.
Sure, I have heard this tongue.
Merecraft murmurs.
What do you mean, sir?
You have a mercenary? We'll recompense it anon in someone else.
He is satisfied now he sees it.
I do not love to be gulled, though in a toy. Wife, do you hear? You're coming to the school, wife, where you may learn. Do perceive it anything. How to be fine, or fair, or great, or proud, or what you will indeed. Wife, it is taught, and I'm glad on't, that you may not say another day, when honours come upon you, you wanted meats. I've done my parts, Been today at £50 charge. First for a ring to get you entered. Then left my new play to wait upon you here to see it confirmed. That I may say both to mine own eyes and ears, senses, you are my witness. She hath enjoined all helps that could be had for love or money.
To make a fool of her.
Why, if that's your malice, the wickedness of your nature to interpret your husband's kindness thus. But I'll not leave still to do good. For your depraved affections, intend it. Bend this stubborn will. Be great.
Good madam, whom do they use in messages?
They commonly use their slaves, madam.
And does your ladyship think that so good, madam?
No, indeed, madam. I therein prefer the fashion of England far of your young, delicate page or discreet usher.
And I go with your ladyship in opinion, directly for your gentleman usher. It's not a finer officer goes on ground.
If he be made and broken to his place once.
Nay, so I presuppose him.
And they are fitter managers too, sir. But I would have them called our escuderos.
Good.
Say I should send to your ladyship, who, I presume, has gathered all the dear secrets to know how to make pastillos of the Duchess of Braganza, coquetas, almohadianas, mantecadas, alcorreas, mustacholi, or say it were the paladore of Isabella, or balls against the itch, or aquanantha, or oil of jessamine for gloves of the Marquess Mucha, or for the head and hair. Why, these are offices.
Fit for a gentleman, not a slave. They only might ask for your pivetti, Spanish coal to burn and sweeten a room, but the arcana of ladies' cabinets
Should be elsewhere trusted. You're much about the truth, sweet honoured ladies. Be falling with you. I have my female wit as well as my male, and do know what suits a lady of spirit or a woman of fashion.
And would you have your wife thus?
Yes, madam, airy, light, not to plain dishonesty, I mean, but somewhat of this side.
I thank you, sir. He has reasons, ladies. I'll not give this rush for any ladies that cannot be honest within a thread.
Yes, madam, and yet venture as far for the other side in her fame.
As can be. Coach it to Pimlico, dance the saravan, hear and talk bawdy, laugh as loud as alarum, squeak, spring, do anything.
in young company, madam.
Or for gallants, if they be brave, or lords, a woman is engaged.
I say so, ladies. 'Tis civility to deny us nothing.
You talk of a university. Why, hell is a grammar school to this.
But then she must not lose a look on stuffs or cloth, madam.
Nor no coarse fellow.
She must be guided, madam, by the clothes he wears and company he is in, whom to salute, how far.
I had told her this, how that bawdry too upon the point, as in itself, as so civil a discourse.
As any other affairs of flesh whatever.
But she will ne'er be capable. She's not so much as coming, madam. I know not how she loses all her opportunities with hoping to be forced. I've entertained a gentleman, a younger brother here, whom I would fain breed up her escudero against some expectations that I have, and shall not countenance him.
What's his name?
Devil of Derbyshire.
Oh, bless us from him.
Devil, call him a Deville, sweet madam.
What you please, ladies.
Deville's a prettier name.
And sounds, methinks, as it came in with the Conqueror.
Who's manling right now?
It's me. Over smocks, what things they are, that nature should be at leisure ever to make 'em. My wooing is at an end. Manly goes out with indignation.
What can he do?
Well, let's hear him.
Can he manage?
And please you to try him, ladies. Stand forth, devil.
Was all this but the preface to my torment?
Come, let the ladyship see your honours.
He makes a wicked leg.
As ever I saw.
Fit for a devil.
Good madam, call him Deville.
Deville. What property is there most required in your conceit now in the escudero?
Why do you not speak?
A settled, discreet pace, madam?
I think a barren head, sir, mountain-like, to be exposed to the cruelty of weathers.
Aye, for his valley is beneath the waste, madam, and to be fruitful there it is sufficient. Dullness upon you! Could you not hit this?
Good sir.
He then had no barren head. To draw him too much in troth, sir.
I must walk with a French stick like an old vierge for you.
Oh, Chief, call me to... Oh, wait, no. Chief, call me to hell again and free me.
You murmur now.
Not I, sir.
What do you take, Master Deville, the height of your employment in the true, perfect escudero?
What do you answer?
To be able, madam, first to inquire, then report the working of any lady's physic in the sweet phrase.
Yes, that's an act of elegance and importance. But what a bum.
Oh, that I had a goad for him.
To find out a good corn cutter?
Out on him.
Most barbarous.
Do you do this now? Purpose to discredit me, you damned devil?
Sure, if I be not yet, I shall be. All my days in hell were holidays to this.
'Tis labour lost, madam.
He's a dull fellow, of no capacity.
Of no discourse. Oh, if my Ambler had been here.
Aye, madam, you talk of a man. Where is there such another?
Master Deville, good case one of my ladies here had a fine brack and would employ you forth to treat about a convenient match for her. What would you observe?
The colour and the size, madam.
And nothing else?
The moon, you calf! The moon!
Aye, and the sign.
Yes, and the receipts for proneness.
Then, when the puppies came, what would you do?
Get their nativities cast.
This is well. What more?
Consult the almanac man, which would be least, which cleanliest.
And which silenced. This is well, madam. And while she were with puppy?
Walk her out and air her every morning.
Very good. And be industrious to kill her fleas.
Yes.
He will make a pretty profession.
Who, coming from hell, could look for such catechizing? The devil is an ass. I do acknowledge it.
Oh, women. All at six in abstract. Another. To each syllable falls from her.
Good madam, give me leave to go aside with him and try him a little.
Do, and I'll withdraw, madam, with this fair lady. Read to her the while.
Come, sir.
Dear chief, relieve me or I perish.
Lady will follow. You are not jealous, sir.
Oh, madam, you shall see. Stay, wife, behold, I give her up here absolutely to you. She is your own. Do with her what you will. melt, cast, and form her as you shall think good. Set any stamp on, I'll receive her from you as a new thing, by your own standard.
Well, sir.
And we have, broadly speaking, an exit and a clear stage. A lot going on in that. A lot of stuff that is very unclear by reading it. I think, again, it would all make so much more sense if you just got it on its feet, so that the action is moving, and so that we have a number of sort of bits of action. There was one bit where they basically just comparing shoes for quite a long period of time. It was just going, how do you walk in those? Oh, you have someone to help you walk along, and it's just suddenly going, have I entered an episode of Sex and the City? It was suddenly really interesting stuff going on there, and then we have this sort of. And obviously we have the important plot details of the ring is brought forward, so he sees the ring which was stolen earlier, which, etc., back and forth. That's there. We obviously have Wittipol going off with the lady, which is, of course, his objective of the scene. Fitzdottrel going, oh, isn't she clever? And then we have this sort of thing of baiting of Pug, and poor Pug just going, I cannot cope with complicated social situations. And it's not like, and yes, he does get beaten at one point. I didn't read the stage direction because I was muted at the time. But he does get hit. But it's more social anxiety pressure. I can't cope with London society. They're all awful. But it comes across in really complicated ways that we sort of need to unpack a lot more, I think, to make that sing. Alan, then Lois.
I think at the beginning of that sequence, there's probably 2 or 3 distinct groups on stage. The chaps in one group, certainly, and the ladies in another, or the ladies with the pretend lady, which I think would make more sense of it. I think some of the dialogue may almost overlap. That you're almost shifting focus between 2 groups.
Yes, because you've sort of got Fitzdottrel, is to one side going, how is the ring being presented? Oh, isn't this impressive? While Wittipol is sort of working the ladies for his own ends. Lois.
Yeah, I'm sure that's right. It's one of the things that makes Jonson hard to read, because he actually does have people moving around between groups and so on. And although he kindly explains how the plot's going, he doesn't tell you where people are going at the same time. Yeah, I think it'd be really hard to bring out this gentleman usher stuff. I mean, the role of gentleman usher doesn't really exist, and this grilling of Pug to see if he knows what his job would be. It'd be pretty hard to do this, I think.
I think this is where, because we've been talking about cuts, but, it's light adaptation to find a better analogue, something that would land. I'm sure you could do, where do you place this spoon on a proper table? That kind, where napkin rings. Where do you put the, can fold it into a swan? That kind of social, the anxiety about his job. And then you turn it into a sort of physical action rather than him trying to explain things, because what they were talking about was sort of just, I was just going, where did the puppies come in? Why are they talking about? I don't understand. I'm sort of checking the footnotes and things to try and figure out what it's all about, and I vaguely do, but I don't really. And that's sort of the problem. If you've got a joke, it's got to be clear what the joke is, and you've got to know what the joke is in the moment. Otherwise, no one's going to laugh. Lois.
Yeah, it's all got to do with the craze that women have for little dogs, and then this bit about mating this dog with another dog to get the right sort of puppies. And this is the sort of job that the gentleman usher would have.
Yeah, well, I mean, having a little dog in a handbag is not a problem for this scene. I think everyone sort of understands that as a social thing. I mean, I quite like the idea that they all have glove puppet dogs in their handbags, and every so often, there's a lot of potential there. But in the absence of context of there being a dog anywhere, it's very difficult to know what they're talking about. Again, lots of potential. There's to be unlocked there. There's a lot of it. Again, I'm looking at this scene going, this scene could be a really tight bit of business. I think because, of course, what is the primary aim here is for Wittipol to go off with Francis. That is, I think, the driver of the whole scene. And actually, very little of the scene involves it. There's the bit about the ring. There's a little bit about the ring because obviously Fitzdottrel is obsessed with, I spent rather a lot of money. Why isn't she wearing the ring? So they have to sort that out. And of course, Wittipol earlier had, saying, I don't need paying, or, the ring passes through his hands very quickly. So interesting things there. Lois.
Yeah, well, the other thing is, Wittipol tells Manley early on, I'm really just doing this to put you off all these women. It's never clear why on earth Manley wants to be in with them anyway, but, he is well and truly put off and walks out in a huff. But it's a weird bit of plotting, that.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because, again, it's one of these things where it's not really in the script. It's in what's happening on stage. Manley on some level is perhaps, looking above his station going, oh, look at these beautiful, pretty ladies and all their lovely finery. Maybe I can woo them. And then he actually meets them and go, oh, no, dear God, I don't want to have anything to do with these people ever. And that's interesting. I mean, and again, it doesn't require much dialogue necessarily. I think it just feels weird because it's not a major theme in words that are spoken, as opposed to something that maybe is visually going on stage. And considering how many footnotes Ben gives us, I was thinking, come on, Ben, give us a few more lengthy descriptions of motivations. I do like the fact he gives us motivations. I mean, they're irritatingly typeset, but they are actually quite useful. He's murmuring to him, and he's doing this, and this is what they're doing here, and this is their catechism. Is this whole thing about they have catechisms here? So, is this supposed to be presented in a sort of pseudo-religious way of those shoes? Amen. Eric.
Yeah, the bit that got me was like, I got the whole thing about the puppies, like, even if it was a very awkward change of subject, but then, I get what that was doing there, some sort of test of propriety or something. But the bit that I didn't get was, like, I think a barren head's a mountain like to be exposed to the cruelty of weathers. Is that like sort of, are they suggesting shaving his head or something? And then, or is that just a metaphor for something else?
Oh, yeah.
Lois.
Yeah, that was a really weird passage. And nearly always descriptions of people that are related to landscapes are erotic, aren't they? Mountains and valleys, and you get it. I kept wondering if that was what was going on there. I mean, because when Fitzdottrel said, a barren head mountain-like to be exposed to the cruelty of weathers, and Fitzdottrel says, aye, for his valley is beneath the waste, madam. And then he's furious, and then starts hitting him. And then they talk about barren heads. I don't know. It's a weird passage. But I think there might be a dirty joke in there somewhere.
If in doubt, it's a dirty joke. Rachel, were you waving?
I was, but it was related to a slightly earlier discussion, just trying to think about what Frances is doing on the stage, because she speaks so little, and she's got to move from coming in with the gentleman and being moved across the stage to what she's doing with Fitzdottrel in the interim. I just was trying to, because she says so little, trying to think about what she's actually doing.
And this is the thing. Frances doesn't say a lot in this whole text. She's been more present. She wasn't present in Act 3 at all. She was in in theory, quite actively in Act 2, but she didn't really, somebody else talking at her for 15 minutes. So, she's got a lot to do, but she hasn't got a lot to say. Which, to be fair, is a part I really like. I really, maximum stage time, minimum dialogue. That's just my dream. Alan, you were waving.
Yeah, I'm just wondering whether the boldness thing was actually a callback to the earlier exchange about Ambler, the bold coachman going bare before.
I don't.
I wonder whether there's a running gag there, which may be cast specific to the original production.
I don't know. I don't know. We'll see if anyone has anything in the chat later, in a year's time when this goes out. In the comments section, anyone on YouTube, you've got an idea, let us know. I could probably just look it up, but that would just be too easy, wouldn't it? I could just turn a couple of pages and have a look. Probably just gets cut. It's straightforward. Eric, then Lois, and we're moving on.
I just like the idea that a pug is driven to pray to sort of the devil and go, call me to hell again and free me. But like sort of, it depends how you want to do that. Like sort of, does he get confused? Does he sort of just like beg on the floor? How does he do this? Because obviously he can't pray upwards. So it's kind of, yeah. So it's just
he's
kind
knocking
of like,
on the floor.
Yeah. Let me out. Yeah. So I just like that he has these repeated like, call me to hell again, or like, or I perish, or whatever. And it's like, the devil is an ass. We got the title of the play again.
Yes, we have had the title many times. And yeah, it is this. And of course, he's sort of failing, and he's failing again in such a pathetic way. I mean, it's like he could have coped with low-level prodding with a pitchfork kind of activity, but as I say, complex social situations he cannot do. It's just not fair. Lois?
Yeah, I think bareheaded. I mean, a bear. The main implication is you keep taking your hat off to people standing bare. So maybe that's all about flattery. The need to just keep flattering everybody in sight.
Okay, let us go into Act 4, Scene 5 then. We have, lots of random people. Act 4, Scene 5, enter Merecraft, Fitzdottrel, Pitfall, Everill, and Plutarchus.
But what have you done in your dependent since?
Oh, it goes on. I met your cousin, the master.
You did not acquaint him, sir.
Faith, but I did, sir, and upon better thought, not without reason. He, being chief officer, might attain it all else as a contempt against his place, and that, in time, sir, had drawn on another dependence. No, I did find him in good terms and ready to do me any service.
So he said to you. But, sir, you do not know him.
Why, I presumed, because this business of my wife's required me, I could not have done better. And he told me that he would go presently to your council, a night here in the lane.
Yes, just as Eitherside.
And get the feophman drawn with a letter of attorney for livery and seisin.
That I know's the course, but, sir, you mean not to make him Fifi?
Nay, that I'll pause on.
Oh, how now, little Pitfall?
Your cousin, Master Everill, would come in. But if Master Manley were here.
No. Tell him if he were, I have made his peace.
And he's whispering to him.
Sir has no state, and a man knows not how such a trust may tempt him.
I conceive you.
Sir, this same deed is done here.
Yes, this is the entrance point of Everill. So, and Plutarchus is actually here.
Pretty Plutarchus, art thou come with it? And has Sir Paul viewed it? Has Sir Paul viewed it?
Have we lost our Plutarchus?
For a few seconds.
Well, for the moment then, Plutarchus, his hand is to the draft.
Will you step in, sir, and read it?
Yes.
I pray you, a word with you.
Everill whispers against Merecraft.
Sir Paul Eitherside willed me give you caution whom you make fief for just the trust them with your whole state. And though my cousin here be a worthy gentleman, yet his father has at the toll board been questioned, and we hold any man so impeached of doubtful honesty. I will not justify this, but give it to you to make your profit of it. If you utter it, I can forswear it.
I believe you, and thank you, sir.
And they all exit apart from Merecraft. So, in fact, does Merecraft enter? No, I think everybody exits. Anyway, we'll come to that question in a moment. Okay, again, plot, business, interactions. People are sort of questioning the con. Is that what's going on there? Is that I'm not quite sure. It's doing something. It's reintroducing a few characters we haven't seen for a while. And obviously Everill isn't Everill the one who money is owed to, isn't it? Is that so obviously Everill doesn't trust anyone because cash is important and things. Lois.
Yeah, I think this document that is somehow involved with Fitzdottrel's title and this whole speculation needs a signature of somebody. I think they still do this, don't they? There's some sort of insurance thing, and you make somebody your beneficiary, don't you, to do a lot of these things. And I think Everill is trying to make sure that Merecraft isn't the beneficiary, and presumably he would like to be. I think a lot is going to be revolving around just whose name gets put in there.
And of course, Sir Paul Eitherside is the person who's going to be they need the signature. This is someone who's being set up. Obviously, we've met Lady Eitherside, so there's being a sort of setup element there. Alexandra, you were waving.
I'd like to add to what Lois was saying, that even for someone who has no understanding of the legalese behind this, the inherently funny word "fee," it's just we can get so much out of that in a production that I feel that alone argues for saving this section, or most of it, but also the fact that we do need some way of clarifying, of helping people understand, people in an audience understand what's going on here with regards to this document, which is sort of plot relevant because it's one of the cons. An entirely unrelated thing, in the previous scene, I just wanted to point out Fitzdottrel's complaint that I left a play for this, which again is just every little bit of meta-theatricality. Please let us be.
Yes, because of course that was the thing. The whole driver for this plot is he's going to go and watch the play, and now he's missing the play. I mean, we're already into Act 4. He's not going to get, he might catch Act 5 if he's lucky. And yeah, I mean, it doesn't help obviously that that some of the drivers that we're talking about here obviously for us it happened about a week ago, so we're trying to remember details that are not exactly fresh in our mind, whereas an audience it will. Merecraft does go into great detail about the complexities of the arrangement for getting everything signed and delivered. Some of which is perfectly accurate. I mean, a lot of it is accurate. It's just accurate in a way that probably won't help Fitzdottrel. And there's this question of how much information the audience needs and how you get that across. So you need a really clear driver here of this bit of paper needs to be signed by this guy. That's all we need? Question mark. There might be some more. There's other stuff going on here. I question whether Plutarchus needs to appear, or whether we need all those complications. I say I'm not quite sure what Everill is. Everill is he basically questioning that this is a good plan here, or is what's Everill doing in that final speech? Give you caution. So, make sure you get the right person's name on the document. So there's a little bit of pushback, perhaps, at the unless that's part of the con, and I've just missed a detail. That is something which I say we need to clarify for ourselves, so we can clarify it for an audience. But yeah, that's again where I'm a little confused. But that's me. Okay. We have another scene, not a very long scene. We have lots of little short scenes to close this act. Okay, Act 4, Scene 6. We got enter Wittipol, Mistress Fitzdottrel, Francis, and we will have the entrance of Manley as well. I don't think Merecraft is here.
Says they enter to him, and
yeah, but I don't think he says a damn thing, so I don't know if he's actually here. I suspect that might be wrong.
He
Anyway,
does speak later at the
Does.
very
Does
end
he?
of the scene. Yeah.
yeah, interesting.
And I have a question
Yeah,
related.
there might be there might be a need for an entrance. I'm questioning lots of things about some of the entrances next. Anyway, yes, Alexandra.
I have a question related to this, which is Wittipol still in disguise or not?
I don't know.
Okay.
There's no indication I can see. We will find out. I'm sure the context will tell us.
Great.
Well,
There hasn't been a lot of time to get changed, and he's entering with Francis, so I'm going to say still in costume. I'm going to say, for the moment, I don't know. You know, because, yeah. Alan.
Who's Manly in this scene?
I was going to say, Rachel, are you free?
No, I'm about to read Francis.
Okay. Lois, I think you're free for this scene, aren't you?
Yeah.
Okay, Act 4, Scene 6. Wittipol, Mistress Fitzdottrel, and Manly and Merecraft might be lurking somewhere.
Not afraid, sweet lady. You're trusted to love, not violence. Here, I am no ravisher, but one whom you, by your faith, trust again, may of a servant make a most true friend.
And such a one I need, but not this way. Sir, I confess me to you, the mere manner of your attempting me this morning took me, and I did hold my invention and my manners were both engaged to give it a requital, but not unto your ends. My hope was then, though interrupted ere it could be uttered, that whom I found the master of such language, that brain and spirit, for such an enterprise, could not, but if those succors were demanded to a right use, employ them virtuously, and make that profit of his noble parts which they would yield. Sir, you have now ground to exercise them in. I am a woman that cannot speak more wretchedness of myself than you can read, matched to a mass of folly that every day makes haste to his own ruin. That wealthy portion that I brought him spent, and, though my friends neglect, no jointure made me. My fortune standing in this precipice, 'tis counsel that I want, and honest aids. And in his name I need you for a friend, never in any other. For his ill must not make me, sir, worse.
Manly, concealed this while, shows himself.
Oh, friend, forsake not the brave occasion virtue offers you to keep you innocent. I have feared for both, and watched you to prevent the ill I feared. But since the weaker side hath so assured me, let not the stronger fall by his own vice, or be the less a friend, 'cause virtue needs him.
Virtue shall never ask my succors twice. Most friend, most man. Your counsels are commands. Lady, I can love goodness in you more than I did beauty, and do here entitle your virtue to the power upon a life you shall engage in any fruitful service, even to forfeit.
Madam, do you hear, sir? We have another leg strained, for this Dottrel, he has a quarrel to carry, and has caused a deed of fiefment of his whole estate to be drawn yonder, cast within, and you only he means to make fee. He's fallen so desperately enamored on you, and talks most like a madman. You did never hear a frenetic so in love with his own favour. Now, you do know 'tis of no validity in your name as you stand. Therefore, advise him to put in me. He's come here. You shall share, sir.
And there we'll pause as we have the exit of various peoples in a confused fashion. Okay, so it's it's a weird, and this is actually where we start getting to the question not only about cutting but also eliding or doing things with some of the minor characters, because we have Wittipol and we have Francis going, look, okay, not uninterested but not interested, I need a friend right now, my life is a bit rubbish, I'm locked up by this guy, it's all a bit terrible. At which point Manly bursts in and does some words, and it's like, do we need any of those words? Can we just not give some of the, can we not just have some of this, why is that happening? Lois?
Well, it depends on what else is going on. I mean, if Wittipol is not totally persuaded by Francis and starts making advances toward her at this point, of course, I don't know if Merecraft is right there. I'm not sure if they're meant to be aware of Merecraft.
This is my problem with Merecraft being physically there. I don't think he can overhear that stuff.
No, I don't see how he could either. And Manly overhears it and only really shows himself. So, I mean, effectively at the beginning, it's a scene between two people. And Wittipol may just be about to say, this is all very well, darling, but what I want is you, and then there would be some point in Manly entering and saying, she's offered a platonic relationship, and what she needs is a friend. You better be that friend.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of actually just would rather, what I would actually prefer is it's a random angel. It's not even an actual character. We've got a devil. Why can't we have an angel just come down and go virtue? And normally I hate that kind of thing in a morality play, but actually for once I'm sort of going, can it not be Manly? Because why? Why?
Yeah, well, Manly is a peculiar character. It's hard to see what he's doing half the time.
No,
any of the time.
Yeah, and again, does he need, because we were asking that question, do we need that subplot of him being interested in Tailbush in that whole scene? And at which point we were discussing earlier, can we elide or remove some of the additional characters who assist? Because, you need some of them. Now, Manly does do some important stuff early in the play, but is it possible is your journey really necessary? It's an interesting question there. So, Alexandra.
I would like to put forth a motion that Merecraft is coming in with the idea of, I'm going to address this woman, but I know he's actually a man. So he's coming in being like, let me just speak to her. Madam! Dude, listen, I need you to do this thing. And I think that makes sense with what you were saying about him not being there. He's coming in on the pretense of. With regards to Manly's presence, I think it's also a question of how do you want to paint Wittipol at this point? Because if you removed Manly's interjection altogether, and Wittipol's line that refers to it, most friend, most man, your counsels are commands, the rest of that still works, but he's making the decision himself to sort of go, you know what, actually, yes, let me be a decent human to this person. And it might be that, as Lois was saying, that actually what we want is very much the opposite of that from him as a person, so it needs an intervention.
I'm going with it. It's a comedy. I'd rather him just be nice. I mean, he can be quite horny, but he doesn't have to be a git. And
there's something very nice and very modern about someone actually respecting a woman's boundaries for once. So that would be nice to have.
I say, is that journey really necessary? I suspect the answer is no. But anyway, we will get to the end of the act. Act 4, Scene 7. We've got various people still on stage. Wittipol, Merecraft, etc. Manly might still be about, not sure. Anyway, enter Fitzdottrel, Everill, Plutarchus.
Madam, I have a suit to you, and aforehand I do bespeak you. You must not deny me. I will be granted.
Sir, I must know it, though.
No, lady, you must not know it. Yet you must too, for the trust of it, and the fame indeed, which else were lost me. I would use your name but an Ethiopment, make my whole estate over unto you. A trifle, a thing of nothing, Some 1800.
Alas, I understand not those things, sir. I am a woman, and most loath to embark myself.
You will not slight me, madam.
No, you're not quarreling me.
No, sweet madam, I have already a dependence, for which cause I do this. Let me put you in, dear madam. I may be fairly killed.
But you have your friends, sir, about you here for choice.
Oh, who's
Don't you
Everill?
think so, Everill?
Eric.
Sorry, but I've lost my place in the script. Oh, she tells you right, sir.
Yeah, if she do, what do I care for that? So, I would have her tell me wrong.
Why, sir, if for the trust you'll let me have the honor to name you one.
Nay, you do me the honour, madam. Who is't?
This gentleman.
Oh no, sweet madam, is a friend to him with whom I have the dependence.
Who might he be?
One Wittipol. Do you know him?
Alas, sir, he, a toy, this gentleman, a friend to him, no more than I am, sir.
But will your ladyship undertake that, madam?
Yea, and what else for him you will engage me?
What is his name?
His name is Eustace Manley.
Whence does he write himself?
Of Middlesex, Esquire.
Say nothing, madam. Clerk, come hither. Right, Eustace Manley, Squire of Middlesex.
What have you done, sir?
Named a gentleman that I'll be answerable for to you, sir. Had I named you, it might have been suspected. This way 'tis safe.
Come, gentlemen, your hands for witness.
What is this?
You have made election of a most worthy gentleman.
Would one of worth had spoken it. Whence it comes, it is rather a shame to me than a praise.
Sir, I will give you any satisfaction.
Be silent, then. Falsehood commends not truth.
You do deliver this, sir, as your deed to the use of Master Manley?
Yes, and sir, when did you see young Wittipol? I'm ready for process now, sir. This is publication. You shall hear from me. He would needs be courting my wife, sir.
Yes, so witnesseth his cloak there.
Nay, good sir. Madam, you did undertake
What?
that he was not Wittipol's friend?
I hear, sir, no confession of it.
No, she knows not. Now I remember. Madam, this young Wittipol would have debauched my wife and made me cuckold through a casement. He did fly at her home to mine own window, but I think I fought him and ravished her away out of his pounces. I'd sworn to him to have him by the ears. I fear the toy will not do me right.
No, that were pity. What right do you ask, sir? Here he is. We'll do it to you.
And Wittipol discovers himself.
Ah, Wittipol!
Aye, sir. No more lady now, nor Spaniard.
No, indeed, 'tis Wittipol.
Am I the thing I feared?
A cuckold? No, sir. But you were late in possibility, I'll tell you thus much.
But your wife's too virtuous.
We'll see her, sir, at home, and leave you here to be made Duke of Shoreditch with the project.
Gracious!
Cry but another note, sir, I'll gnaw at the tomb of your pipe.
You mean my deed, then?
Neither. That shall be kept for your wives' good, who will know better how to use it.
Huh! To feast you in my land?
Sir, be you quiet, or I shall gag you where I go. Consult your master of dependencies how to make this a second business. You have time, sir.
Oh!
Wittipol baffles him and goes out.
What will the ghost of my wise grandfather my learned father, with my worshipful mother, think of me now that left me in this world in state to be their heir. That I'm become a cuckold and an ass, and my wife's ward, like to lose my land and my throat cut, all by her practice.
Sir, we are all abused.
And be so still. Who hinders you, I pray you? Let me alone. I would enjoy myself and be the Duke of Drowned Land that you have made me.
Sir, we must play an after game of this.
But I'm not in case to be a gamester. I tell you once again.
You must be ruled and take some counsel.
Sir, I do hate counsel, as I do hate my wife, my wicked wife.
But we may think how to recover all, if you will act.
I will not think, nor act, nor yet recover. Not talk to me. I'll run out of my wits rather than hear. I will be what I am, Fabian Fitzdottrel, though all the world say nay to it.
Let's follow him.
Yes, as he obviously runs out of 4. End of the act. So we have some signing of the Theophany. Let's just keep saying it, because regardless of whether anyone knows what the plot is, that'll get a laugh from the audience. Guaranteed crowd every single time. So by using Manly as the signatory, he's done something clever to defraud Fitzdottrel of this thing that isn't I'm not quite sure actually what in practice this has done, because isn't none of this real? Is it? So I'm quite confused as to. I mean, does that basically mean that he's handed over some sort of security that he's now lost to Wittipol's manoeuvrings there? Alexandra, then Lynn.
I don't know enough about the legalese and the law in this period, so someone after me might correct me. But the sense I'm getting from just the text is that he was in a position where, as he was naming someone, as you said, Lois, sort of as beneficiary, in case something should happen to him, and it's benefiting from that person will be benefiting from not only the future estate or whatever it is, but also everything he's got at the moment. So from Fitzdottrel's perspective, by his wife's machinations, he is now in a position where it would be really good for someone to top him, because all his stuff would go to this other random dude, which is why he wanted this woman that he trusts, who is Wittipol in disguise, named there instead. Because, from his perspective, she wouldn't do anything terrible against him. She would, whereas this random person called Manly is a friend to his enemy, and so it is in his best interest, both financially and also because he's not a friend to me, he's a friend to my enemy. It's in his interest to kill him. This is the sense I'm getting. But again, for a modern audience, we really need to make these things enormously clear.
Well, I think even for the audience of the day. I mean, I think to a degree the flow of the scene is straightforward. I don't want to have that person's name on the thing. The person's name is on the thing. He's waggling the bit of paper at me and running away. So in terms of, even if you don't understand the intricacies, you understand that he's being got at in some fashion, but I mean, we do need to understand what is going on, though, which we will get to. The
consequence.
Yeah. Lynn, then Lois, then Alan.
Yeah, my understanding of it wasn't that detailed. The point that I got is that the property that Fitzdottrel has signed over is real. It's not the drained fenland. It's not the drowned land. I mean, he is a man of some substance, or he wouldn't be this universal mark. So he's got something worth having, and Wittipol sort of uncharacteristically decides to do the right thing and help get that property under his wife's control so he doesn't lose it, waste it. He's already spent her dowry. She's in a financially precarious position.
Mm.
So he's like, okay, well, we'll get what's left, which is your husband's property, in your control, so that he can't lose it. So I mean, this is sort of an unusual turn that Wittipol, when he's been denied what he's after, sexual access to this very attractive woman, he actually does something nice for her. I'm kind of liking that. So I'm really curious how the rest of the last act plays out.
Yeah, so in that sense, he to buy into this scheme, to buy the shares in the scheme, he's effectively mortgaging all his lands, and that's effectively being signed over to Manley, and that effectively means it's going to be handed over to Francis. We can infer that's what happens, so that or is least controlled, But anyway, it's not in Fitzdottrel's hands anymore. That's the important point. We're sort of inferring a step ahead here that Manley, because he's so virtuous and angelic, will do the right thing. Lois and Alan.
Yeah, and I think, just other details of this. One reason that Fitzdottrel wants to sign over to somebody else is that has this dependence, which appears to be the possibility of a fight with Wittipol. They talk about this, and I don't know if that's really a serious matter, but he seems to think it might happen. So he is in this goofy situation of trying to sign something over to the very person that he's actually supposed to be about to fight with. The other thing is, I think Frances mentions that her friends, which really means her relations, I think the people that set up her marriage contract, didn't get a jointure for her, which is awful. I think that entitles her to a third of her husband's possessions or something like that if he dies. And she could be completely destitute, I take it, and he's doing his best to make her that anyway, because he spent all her money. And I don't know, at the very opening of the scene, Wittipol does say that there are really no nasty intentions toward her, and he may in fact be acting honorable. It didn't look like it in that scene in the balcony, but
again, we've no evidence it wasn't entirely consensual.
Yeah, there's that too. Yeah, maybe they both just realized that, we don't want adultery. What we need is help. And that seems to be what's happening. They're just trying to save her, and which means saving her husband in a way from making the mess of his life that he seems about to make.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is we've already had this semi-explanation earlier that the complexities of these financial arrangements mean you don't name the person who you've got to name a second, which is where Manley comes in. So you can't just sign it over to Merecraft, because for this scheme, because for reasons. And so who are you going to name? He's already been warned by Everill that there might be some issues here, so he needs to find someone he can safely use as a name. Manley, that seems like a good name. Manley is a friend of Wittipol. No, so it's all there, but it is still very complicated, and I don't quite understand why all of those things. Alan.
Yeah, I just googled Fiofi just for interest to clarify it. And it simply is a grant of freehold land.
Anyway, we're going to go to final thoughts in a moment, but before that, Eric.
I also, on top of all this, aside from the semi-catastrophic career turn that is happening with Fitzdottrel, he missed the play. So, out of everything, it's been a shit day for him.
Yeah, he was going to become a duke. He was going to see a play. He's still got the cloak. To be fair, he's still got a fancy cloak. So, he looks fabulous, if nothing else.
Wow.
Yeah. So, final thoughts. So, I think it's starting to fall into place. I think we're definitely feeling there with this act and the last act. There's sort of more structural, tidy up stuff to clarify things. Whereas Act 1 and Act 2 is much more, we need to trim this bit, we need to trim that bit. Here, there does seem to be a sharpening of the narrative focus needs to happen. We're starting to get this question about Manley suddenly turning into somebody else or functioning in the play in a very different way. That I don't know I need in the second half. I feel Manley functions in the first half to do a job, but I'm not sure in the second half we need him at all at the moment. I could be wrong. We'll find out in Act 5. He might be structurally necessary, but I kind of feel he could just go.
Well, whose name is going to go into that document then?
Ah, yes. I suppose he does. Yeah, we can wait because his name could still be there. But I say, I'm just starting to think who could Manley possibly double as, if we can do stuff with him. But yes, that is a good point. We still need a name. The other people seem to have disappeared. You know, it's like Pitfall popping in for 2 seconds and then disappearing again. You know, there's lots of people popping in and out.
Pitfall appears in the next scene. By accident.
He opens that up, yeah.
Right. Lois, any final thoughts?
Well, I mean, I know that Jonson's theory of drama included the idea that you think you're almost finished at the end of the 4th act, and then you get new business, new complications starting in the 5th. And that certainly happens in both Volpone and The Alchemist. I mean, Lovewit returns at the beginning of Act 5 of The Alchemist. And
no spoilers, please, for those who haven't.
Oh gosh, sorry. Yes, I forgot we hadn't read that one yet. And have we done Volpone?
We have done Volpone. You can do that.
Yeah, well, you know, the court cases and the people changing their minds about what they're going to swear and so on. That all. And Volpone's decision, of course, to decide to play dead, and then which turns out to be an almost irreversible one. Anyway, and that's what we're clearly getting here. I mean, it looks as if the whole Wittipol Francis Fitzdottrel plot is kind of ended, but then Merecraft is obviously trying to figure out a way of getting money out of this, or defeating them in some way. So that's what Act 5 is going to be about.
But and also we have to resolve what's happening with Pug.
Pug.
Yeah. What will happen to Pug? Answers on a postcard. Predictions, please, for those who don't know how it actually ends. Rachel, any final thoughts?
No, I'm a bit at sea at the moment. Sorry.
It's just fair enough. I think it's definitely coming back after several days. This is not the act to have done it on.
No, and I missed acts 2 and 3. So I'm
yeah, there's an awful lot going, and I say each act builds on the previous. I mean, that's the thing. This one has, as Lois was saying, this act has. It does also build to a sort of conclusion, but it doesn't conclude everything. And of course, there's hints of complications of basically, shall we go to law? I don't want to go to law. We're going to law. Because that never goes badly. I don't like lawyers. Yeah, you won't. Aliki, any final thoughts?
I am also all at sea, so my only thought is that I really love Pug going, oh, please, Satan, take me away from all this. That's my favorite bit.
Alan, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I must admit the discussions over cutting, I think, may be a bit premature, because until we've seen what the resolution of the various plot lines is in Act 5, it's very difficult to work out what you can excise without actually really messing up the storylines. I agree with you. It does certainly need some pretty hefty trimming. The question is, unless it's just salami slicing some of the longer bits to keep some of the good stuff, and there's plenty of good stuff in there, whole plot lines is going to depend on how the resolution comes, if indeed it does.
Yeah, it's interesting. This act, we had basically the big Wittipol set piece Spanish Madam sequence, and then we have a few scenes doing sort of plot basically, and the sort of resolving the end point of that Spanish disguise with the signing. But we've got lots of little things cutting in there, just going and this and this and this, which are all linked together. They're all reasonable. But yeah, how they flow into each other and how they flow into action from previous acts as well. In a sense, it is that thing of trying to tidy up a 5-act structured play into a 2-act with 1 interval logic. I think we've got the ghost of the idea how to do that, but it's gonna be a lot of micro cuts. I think that's the whole thing is going to be micro cuts. It's not this whole plot line disappears, because I don't think you can, because it's one plot line. It's just flowing along into itself. I mean, even the pug plot line is sort of still the A plot as well. It all intersects. Lynn, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I think we're agreed that the plot is it's kind of hard to follow. A lot of us are at sea about that. We haven't talked too much about the satire, and I just kind of wanted to bring that up. I just kind of wanted to, it's something to notice. Because there's more going on here, I think, than we see on the surface. I mean, one of the things that this play reflects is that sort of things are shifting. It really was kind of not done for a lady to go into business. You know, the sort of outgoing set of social mores says that, high class people depend on land for their income, and they don't do work. They don't do business. Business is for tradesmen. But that's either changing or that's being criticized. I mean, there's something going on with that here, that a lady wants to invest in a patent, basically. So I think there's a criticism of nascent capitalism, upwardly mobileness, arriviste, ordinary people. I think there's that going on, and the fact that she's Spanish is intriguing. I mean, I've always thought of like the French as the sort of aspirational culture. So I'm wondering if there's something about her being Spanish that's significant that we're missing at this distance of time, or just my lack of knowledge about that. But I mean, I think there's there's a critique of the aspirations of the gentry class here going on. And do we want to keep that and highlight that and try to find a modern day equivalent, or is it okay if we lose that? Also something to think about.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting actually where precisely these people are in society. How deep is their money? Because you're talking about the kind of social aspirations. I mean, there are plenty of women who are business owners and or involved in business in a very active way. But you're right, not in this class, not in this particular strata of society. So how deep is their money? Are some of them self-made? Are they aspirational? As opposed to your pucker landed gentry who eschew the question of work and find that distasteful. Eric, any final thoughts?
Well, I feel like the first act was definitely about like setting up the whole thing, which was a bit more dense in terms of like what was going on, whereas here we've got actual dialogue and stuff, so and shenanigans going on back and forth, and which of course Jonson likes to explicate with small stage direction things, but I don't know how much of that is clear. Like, I mean, like, okay, we get the point that he's whispering to the character is whispering to someone about someone else, and it's like instead of writing asides, he just wrote in that. But he doesn't actually write in any of the physical business, which is a bit sad, but also...
There are these ambiguous stage directions. Wittipol baffles him and goes out. Is that an action, or is that what he's just done with his dialogue?
Yeah.
Could be both, I guess.
Well, it could be both. But, it isn't clear what that means. And that gives us, I suppose, room for manoeuvre. Sorry, Eric, continue.
No, I was just going to say that I guess it depends what you want to do with it. Like if you go for an audio production route, or if you go for a stage production route, or whatever, because then obviously the physical action might not inform the act, might not inform the dialogue quite so much if you do audio, or it would, as in like you have to like know if you're being beaten or not, obviously. As Pug or Everill or whatever. So yeah.
Alexandra, any final thoughts?
You, in response to Lynn's point from earlier, maybe why Spanish? Maybe the Spanish and their fashions are, the acceptable subject of ridicule this week because we're warring with them and not the French, or some such, or they're the last group to have been warred with. Who knows?
We're not at war with them at the moment.
Right, but they might be the last.
Nobody
Sure,
nobody likes the fact, but actually there has been a relatively long period of peace.
There we go. So that might be the reason.
Mm.
They're the last people we warred with, and we don't like how that ended. From the audience's perspective, is what I'm saying. Also, possibly, quite possibly, maybe that's just the costume they have. Because if you have to present someone as ultra fashionable and the very latest thing, that would require some very significant effort. So if they're going to make that effort, it might be easier if they have the setup set up, or it will be cheaper to adapt these things for the guy's height than these other things. I don't know, but yeah, it could be things like that we've lost since. The question is, in a modern context, how does that work, right? Because I think a lot of the ridiculing of the Spanish fashion then becomes ridiculing the fashion in general, and then we start heading even more towards a notion of ridiculing women in general, or these women as represented by these only women in the play, as shallow and as only interested in makeup and whatever. And the rest of the play doesn't do that, right? We have women like Frances kind of having genuine concerns in their existence about being, having all their money spent by their husband. We have other women who are, as you were saying, we have the other character who's trying to potentially start a business. And so I think just overall, it's worth paying attention to, in the cutting of this, how much gets removed from where, so and what that does to the representation of entire groups. There's also, I think, the issue in that scene with the one fake woman and several real ones, of which the most plot relevant to us is silent. There's also the issue of how is that a torture of Punk? Because surely his experience needs to go lower, and he has to have a worse and worse time of it. And the last time, or the previous time that we've seen him complain, he was taking a beating, or maybe this stuff has happened since the act I was last on. But yeah, I think that's another thing that we would need some very serious structural consideration. Other than that, I'm with Alan that we need to get to the end of this and then go backwards and go, right, which were the bits that were plot relevant, which were the bits that were meta theatrical, which were the bits that were just words we really liked, and then working from there.
Well, in a sense, I actually think we can make some decisions now, because what happens with this play is that by the time we're at the end of the act, we have had set up what's going to happen in the next act pretty much exclusively. Everything that has, we've had all these hints as to the people we're going to see next. One of the problems we'll have with Act 5 in this regard is pretty much everybody's going to turn up again at some point. And then we can make decisions as to whether they're needed in the final scenes or not. But otherwise, I mean, every single act, it's always introduce this person, introduce the next plot strand, and then the previous plot strands are basically sort of weaved into that plot. So everything we need to know is sort of we sort of know everything now, apart from what the final catastrophe is going to be for both of the primary plot strands. So I suspect, actually, in terms of just general cutting, actually we can go through and say, well, this bit isn't that important. This is a set piece, and it's full of, each act has a set piece that is its own unit of act. It's not going to be reiterated or come back to. The only thing that we can't really unpack is really the mechanics of the Theophy. That's where until we find out what the legal maneuvers at the end are going to be when they bring in the threatened legal action and presumably either side. We don't know how to unpack that. But otherwise, I mean, we could go through Act 1 and 2 and cut them very straightforwardly, and we can make an outline for Act 3 and 4 if we could be asked, which we can't. If you're interested in these plays and you've been watching along on these YouTubes, then you could always join us as well. We have sign-up forms every month on the website beyondshakespeare.org. You can be one of us rather than just listening or watching along, if you so desire. It's entirely free and open to all. You can join us if you wish. But all that remains, thank all the wonderful readers who are already here for being wonderful. Thank you very much, everyone, and goodbye. He means to make a theophy. Fifi.